So today I'm going to be showing you how to watercolor on canvas. This is sometimes referred to as duck cloth, but you can get this cream colored fabric really at any store. I usually get it at Joann's. They also sell colored fabric, colored canvas. But with this watercolor, it will allow you to kind of bring a little more depth to your work and have a one-of-a-kind, unique background for your embroidery pieces. So this is an example of another piece of canvas that I watercolored, and you can kind of see on the back where it's bled through. So if you want, you can just watercolor your flat fabric, kind of like this example here. And then after you're done, you can hoop it. Like I could take a 4-inch or 6-inch hoop and then hoop that fabric up. So today we're gonna actually be using stretched canvas, which I stretched myself. And if you're interested, I can film a video on that. But we're gonna get started with this watercolor. So this is just a cheap Artist Loft watercolor set. I think it was like maybe $10 or $14. But I've been using it for a couple of years and still have a ton of watercolor left. So it's been really handy. You can see there's a ton of colors to choose from. And we're gonna go from there. So with this watercolor, I'll link everything that I used down below. We're gonna look at the brushes that I used. So these are actually, I think they're acrylic brushes, and this kind of shows you how kind of foolproof this is. So what I am looking for when I'm trying to watercolor canvas is just a big kind of fluffy brush that can easily fill up your space. Like if you're using a super tiny little brush, this would take forever. And I feel like using the larger brush helps to make things kind of uniform and get the job done quicker. So you can use whatever you have lying around and it should work out. You also need a cup of water, obviously when you're using the watercolors. So it's good to have that handy. And then also I would have like a paper towel or a Lysol wipe handy to clean up any spills, because as you can see, or will see, this will be a little messy. So we're gonna try to recreate this kind of pinkish orangey color that I used on that previous piece of fabric and see how it goes. If you were to look at the watercolors that I use, you can tell that I love using this color combo. So just have a general idea beforehand which colors you want to use. I've found that the best results are when you're kind of bouncing between a few different colors. That way there's more depth to it. But the more colors you use, the more muddy it's gonna get. So that's why I just kind of stick to just a couple. Like this one, I'm just using primarily pinks and oranges just so things don't get too crazy. I'm starting with the pink. And as you can see, it's pretty light. So at the beginning here, I'm just getting the canvas full. So I don't want to do anything super uniform. As you can tell, I'm kind of bouncing back between different places, but I'm not just putting on one full layer of pink. I feel that with this watercolor, the best thing about it is that it's so multidimensional. And so if you were to just do a plain wash, it kind of defeats the purpose. So right now we're just adding color. I'm bouncing between these two pinks. And what's great about watercolor is that it really is kind of mess up proof. Like if you were to put one big clod of a color that you didn't want, or that once you put it on the canvas, it looked way too bright, you can always use water to dilute it down. See, right now I actually didn't use a lot of water to try to get a ton of that product onto the canvas. And now I'm going out and just diluting that down with water so it's not so intense, the pigment. So now I'm going to start going in with the oranges. As you can see, I'm going to do the same things as I did before with the pink, kind of brushing it out from different places. And again, see how bright that orange is when you first lay it down. You can always buff it out, and using water is a great way to buff it out even more or even quicker. You can see at first I was being pretty shy, and then I start just really hitting it with the color. And just keep layering and layering. Layering is what it's all about. So you see I added a lot more orange now, and then I'll start to go in with a little more pink to bring the pink back into it. So like I said before, this project gets pretty messy. I'm using just like a plain melamine backboard, but definitely be aware of where you're doing this. Like if you were doing a like wood table, you'd want to be really careful and try to lay a lot of things down, because this is so easy to wipe up. I really didn't worry about it, and like you can see here, I'm just wiping it up really quickly. But like doing it on tile is great. Just something where you can just quickly wipe it up is perfect. And because I'm doing this canvas, I also wanted to make sure I was hitting the sides, just so that it's also painted in case I don't want to use a frame eventually. Adding a little more color to the front, just so things all look perfect. And then as I'm finishing up, I found that when it dries, it's pretty true to the color. Like when it dries, it doesn't, suddenly dilute your color a lot. So what you end up with will be how it dries. And you definitely want to give it some time before you start stitching. I usually wait like 24 hours-ish. Overnight usually works. And that is it. It's really simple. It's more about just choosing the colors you want, and then playing around with it and being brave. But you can check out all of my work at thethreadhoney.com. I'm also on Instagram at threadhoney. And you can pick up my book, Embroidery, now on Barnes & Noble, Target, and Amazon. If you have any questions, just leave them below and I'll try to answer them. Again, I'll link the watercolor and the paintbrushes that I recommend below.